The sun blazed over Ouagadougou's dusty streets as the school bell echoed through the courtyard. Children laughed, their bright uniforms glowing against the red earth. But inside the high walls of Unity Cultural School, something unusual stirred: extra security, men in plain clothes scanning rooftops, and black SUVs parked quietly nearby. Inside one of the classrooms sat Aisha Traore, the daughter of Burkina Faso's leader, on a special visit to meet students. She smiled shyly as her teacher introduced her. "This is Aisha," he said proudly. "Today she joins you in learning about your country's history." The class clapped, but a quiet girl in the back, Zara, just watched, calm, thoughtful, noticing everything. Then, boom! The ground shook. Windows shattered. A cloud of dust swallowed the hallway. Screams filled the air as desks flipped and lights flickered. In seconds, laughter turned to chaos. Security guards rushed in, shouting orders: "Move! Protect the eastern wing!" But confusion reigned. Through the broken glass, figures emerged, men dressed as delivery workers, but armed. They moved fast, too fast. One of them barked in a foreign tongue: "Find the target." Zara froze for only a second, then ducked under her desk. Her eyes darted. She saw Aisha pushed to the ground by her panicking teacher. The armed men stormed closer. One of them looked into the room, his eyes cold and focused. "Clear this section," he shouted. Zara's pulse thundered. She could hear her heart in her ears. The men kicked open doors, checking rooms one by one. She noticed one detail: a small red emblem on their sleeves, a desert scorpion, a mark she'd only seen in the news, connected to a terrorist faction in the Sahel. Then she saw it, one of them, breaking off from the group, moving toward the hallway where Aisha had just crawled. He carried a pistol, slow and deliberate. Zara whispered to herself, "No, she's alone." The lights flickered again. A teacher tried to stop the gunman. He was shoved to the ground. The corridor was half empty now. Dust and panic blurred everything. Zara grabbed her school bag, crouched low, and moved quietly along the wall. Every sound, every step, echoed in her chest. She reached the doorway just in time to see the man corner Aisha. The little girl whimpered, pressing herself against a locker. The gunman raised his weapon. And in that instant, Zara moved. She snatched a metal bucket from the cleaning corner and hurled it with all her strength. The bucket smashed into the wall beside him, sending a ringing crash through the hall. He flinched and fired. The bullet hit the ceiling. Smoke and dust rained down. Zara shouted, "Aisha, run!" Aisha hesitated, then obeyed. The two girls darted into a side passage as alarms wailed. Behind them, the gunman screamed orders to his team. Zara didn't stop. She grabbed Aisha's hand and said, breathlessly, "If we want to live, follow me." The sound of gunfire echoed as the camera panned out over the burning school, two small figures vanishing into the smoke. The air was thick with smoke and panic. Sirens blared as students screamed, running in every direction. Zara's lungs burned, but she didn't stop. She pulled Aisha down a narrow corridor lit only by flickering lights. "Keep your head low," she whispered, glancing behind. Shadows moved. The terrorists were splitting up, searching. One shouted, "She's with the girl. Don't let them get away." Zara's heart pounded. She knew the layout of the school, every corridor, every emergency door. But half of them were locked. They needed another way out. Aisha stumbled, gasping. I can't run anymore," she cried softly. Zara crouched beside her, gripping her shoulders. "You have to. They're not far. Listen, there's a storage room ahead, we'll hide there for a moment." They slipped inside a small janitor's room. The sound of boots thudded nearby. Zara pressed her ear to the door, voices, close, sharp, foreign. She spotted an old walkie-talkie on a shelf and tried to turn it on, static. "No signal." She whispered, "They've jammed communications. That's why the guards aren't coming." Aisha looked terrified. "Who are they?" Terrorists, Zara replied quietly. They came for you. Aisha froze. Her face paled as realization hit. Zara peeked through the keyhole. One of the attackers, the one with the scorpion emblem, was giving orders, pointing toward the classrooms. Check the basement. The target must not leave this building. Zara thought fast. Basement, she murmured. There's a ventilation exit there. They waited until the footsteps faded, then slipped out. Zara held Aisha's hand tightly as they crept through a hallway littered with fallen books, broken glass, and overturned desks. The smell of smoke mixed with fear. When they reached the basement door, Zara pushed it open carefully, creak. The noise echoed. She froze. Move, she whispered urgently. They hurried down the dark stairs. A flashlight beam flickered above, someone had heard them. Zara yanked open a side door and pulled Aisha into a boiler room. The flashlight beam swept past the doorway just seconds later. Her mind raced. She remembered an old maintenance vent behind the water tanks, small but big enough for a child. She crawled to it, unscrewing the bolts with trembling fingers. Go in, she said, helping Aisha climb inside. Don't make a sound. Crawl until you see light at the end. What about you? Aisha whispered. I'll be right behind you, Zara promised. The sound of boots came closer again. Zara slipped in after her just as a door slammed open behind them. The terrorists shone lights inside, but the vent's darkness hid them. Crawling through the metal tunnel, Zara could hear Aisha sobbing softly. You're doing great, she whispered. Just a bit more. Finally, they saw light, a faint glow from an opening behind the school's field. They crawled out, covered in dust and sweat. Zara looked back one last time. The school behind them was burning, gunfire echoing, soldiers shouting. She turned to Aisha and said, We're not safe yet. We need to disappear. Holding Aisha's hand tightly, Zara led her toward the back alleys of the city, disappearing into the chaos. The streets outside the school were unrecognizable, sirens wailed, smoke billowed into the sky, and terrified crowds scattered in every direction. Zara and Aisha ran barefoot over broken glass and dust, their school uniforms torn and streaked with soot. Don't stop, Zara whispered, half pulling Aisha through a side alley lined with rusted tin walls. The sound of gunfire echoed in the distance, short bursts, closer than before. They reached a narrow passage behind a row of market stalls. The vendors had fled, leaving fruit baskets and cloths scattered on the ground. Zara crouched behind an overturned crate, catching her breath. Aisha was shaking. Zara, they'll find us. Zara looked at her, dirt streaked across her small face, fear in her eyes, and forced a calm smile. Not if we move smart. She scanned the street, military trucks were arriving, but so were more armed men blending with the crowd. Zara realized something chilling: the attackers weren't just outsiders. Some were locals helping them. A group of them marched past, shouting into radios. The girl is alive. Search the alleys. Zara froze, gripping Aisha's hand tightly. They crouched lower, hearts pounding. One of the men kicked open a nearby door. Zara grabbed a cloth, covered Aisha's mouth, and whispered, quiet. After 10 seconds, the footsteps faded away. Zara exhaled slowly. Come on, she whispered, we need a ride. They ran toward the old part of the market, now eerily silent. A large truck filled with fruit stood half-loaded, its driver missing. Zara climbed up, peeking inside. Perfect. She quickly rearranged banana crates, making space beneath them. Get in here, she said. Aisha hesitated. It smells. Zara gave a half-smile. Better to smell bananas than bullets. Trust me. They crawled under the crates. Zara pulled a tarp over them just as heavy boots echoed nearby again. Through the fabric, she saw silhouettes, soldiers and terrorists arguing. The child must be found, one shouted. Her breath caught. The men checked vehicles one by one. A hand pulled the tarp slightly, a guard peeked in, frowned at the crates, then moved on. Zara waited. 1 minute. 2. The truck engine started, someone was leaving. The vehicle jolted forward. She whispered, "We're moving." The truck rumbled through the dusty streets. Through small gaps, Zara saw flashes of the burning school behind them, a haunting glow fading into the horizon. Aisha finally spoke, voice trembling. "Why are you helping me?" Zara looked at her softly. "Because you'd do the same, if you could." The truck stopped suddenly. They froze. Outside, voices argued again, another checkpoint. Zara's heart raced. She reached into her school bag, found her ID card, and whispered, "If they open this truck, don't move." Boots approached. Then, silence. The driver's voice shouted, "Just fruits for the camp." After 10 seconds, the truck rolled forward again. Zara let out a long breath of relief. "We made it past them," she whispered. The truck turned off the main road and headed toward the city's outskirts, where freedom, and new danger, waited in the shadows. The truck rumbled down a dirt road and finally came to a halt near the edge of the city. Night had fallen, a heavy, moonless sky hung over Ouagadougou. Zara peeked from beneath the tarp, no soldiers in sight. The driver had left the vehicle to check his load. Quietly, she nudged Aisha. "Now," she whispered. They slipped out the back and landed softly on the dirt. The air was cooler here, away from the burning streets. Crickets chirped in the distance. Ahead, a few dim houses stood scattered among trees. Zara scanned the area. "There's a mechanic's shop down that road," she said. "My uncle used to work there. It's empty now, but safe." Aisha nodded weakly, clutching Zara's hand. They moved quickly, keeping to the shadows. Every sound made them flinch, a barking dog, a slamming door, even the distant hum of helicopters searching overhead. Finally, they reached the old workshop, its rusted metal gate half open. Inside were scattered tools, broken vehicles, and a dusty oil lamp still hanging from the wall. Zara lit it, its faint glow casting shadows across the room. Aisha sank onto an old seat, exhausted. "I thought we'd never make it." Zara found a bottle of water, wiped it clean with her sleeve, and handed it over. "Drink. You need it." Aisha looked at her curiously. "You knew what to do back there. Have you done this before?" Zara hesitated, eyes distant. "My father was in the army. He taught me how to stay calm, how to survive. He never came back from the border." Aisha lowered her head. "I'm sorry." Silence filled the space, two girls from different worlds united by fear and courage. Zara moved to the window, peering out cautiously. She could see distant lights, military trucks, patrols moving across the city. "They're still looking for you," she said. "We can't stay long." Aisha bit her lip. "They'll find us." "Not if I move first." Zara reached into a drawer and found a small radio, dusty but intact. She fiddled with the dials, static, then faint voices. "Search continues for the missing daughter of President Traore." Zara glanced at Aisha. "They haven't found you yet." "That's good." Aisha's eyes welled with tears. "He must be so worried." Zara kneeled beside her. "He'll find you. But until then, we survive." The moment hung heavy, filled with quiet strength. Suddenly, a faint sound outside. A vehicle stopping. Men talking. Zara's instincts flared. "Get down," she whispered, blowing out the lamp. Darkness swallowed them. Through the cracks in the gate, she saw silhouettes moving, flashlights sweeping. "They're close," she mouthed. Aisha clutched her arm. "What do we do?" Zara's eyes hardened. "If they find us, we fight." She grabbed a metal wrench, silent but ready. The lights moved closer, then passed by. The engine roared and faded into the night. Zara finally exhaled, lowering the wrench. "They didn't see us." Aisha hugged her tightly. Zara froze, then smiled faintly. For the first time, both girls realized they weren't just running anymore. They were fighting to protect each other. The night was silent, too silent. Zara sat awake, back against the wall, gripping the old wrench like a weapon. Aisha slept fitfully beside her, wrapped in a torn blanket. Outside, the faint hum of engines echoed again. Zara's eyes narrowed. She rose and peered through a gap in the gate. Headlights. 2 trucks. Armed men stepping out, whispering in harsh tones. One of them kicked the dirt angrily and barked, "She's here." The president's girl, the tracker picked up her ID near this area. Zara's heart dropped. They found us. She shook Aisha awake. "Aisha, get up. Don't make a sound. Hide behind the tool cabinet, now." Aisha obeyed instantly, eyes wide with fear. Zara looked around the dark workshop, oil barrels, tools, a broken generator, piles of spare parts. No guns. No guards. Just her. Outside, the men spread out. One raised a flashlight, cutting through the cracks in the door. Another cocked his rifle. Zara whispered to herself, "Not today." She dipped her fingers into an oil pan and smeared the floor slick. Then she pulled a wire loose from the wall, sparking it against a leaking fuel drum. A soft hiss, then smoke. The gate creaked open. Search everywhere. They stepped inside, flashlights sweeping. One of them noticed footprints in the oil. He followed them toward the back. That's when Zara struck. She swung the wrench hard, crack. The flashlight shattered, and the man dropped. Another shouted, firing blindly into the dark. Sparks flew. The barrel ignited with a blast of fire, forcing the men to duck. Zara coughed through smoke, grabbing Aisha's hand. "Run!" They dashed through the side door, bullets tearing through the air behind them. Zara pushed Aisha behind a metal crate and faced the doorway, breathing hard. Her arm was bleeding from shrapnel, but she stood tall, eyes blazing. A tall figure stepped into the firelight, the terrorist leader, face hidden by a scarf, the scorpion emblem gleaming on his vest. He smirked. "You think you can save her? You're just a child." Zara raised the wrench again. "Then you should be scared." He lunged, she dodged, swung, missed. He knocked the wrench away, grabbed her by the collar. A shot rang out, but not from him. Outside, heavy footsteps thundered. Soldiers poured in, shouting orders. Gunfire erupted. Zara fell back, dazed, as armed commandos stormed the compound. The terrorist leader tried to flee, but a burst of light stopped him. From the smoke stepped Ibrahim Traoré, rifle in hand, eyes blazing. "Touch my daughter," he growled, "and it will be your last mistake." One final shot, silence. Zara blinked through the haze as Traore rushed to Aisha, pulling her close. She pointed weakly at Zara. "Papa, she saved me." Zara collapsed, fainting, as Traore shouted for a medic. The last thing she heard before blacking out, his voice, full of awe. "Who is this brave girl?" The night air was thick with tension. Zara crouched behind a stack of oil barrels, clutching her wrench like a lifeline. Aisha huddled beside her, trembling but silent. Outside the safe house, the crunch of boots on dirt sent chills down her spine. "They're close," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The distant hum of engines grew louder, 2 trucks approaching, headlights cutting through the darkness. Armed men jumped out, rifles in hand, scanning the shadows. One shouted, "The girl. She can't have gone far." Zara's heart raced. She glanced at Aisha, eyes wide with fear, and swallowed hard. There was no one else to rely on, only her instincts and courage. She scanned the room quickly, broken tools, leaking oil barrels, piles of scrap metal. Her mind raced for a plan. Catching a loose wire from the wall, Zara improvised. She flicked it against a fuel drum, sparks ignited, smoke curling toward the doorway. "When they come in, they'll get more than they bargained for," she murmured. The first terrorist kicked open the gate, flashlight sweeping across the room. Zara held her breath. His beam fell on the oil-slicked floor, and he slipped, crashing hard. Aisha stifled a gasp. Zara swung her wrench, smashing another flashlight, plunging the space into darkness. "Search everywhere," a voice barked. The men spread out, moving cautiously. Zara used the confusion to pull Aisha behind a heavy workbench. She whispered, "Stay close, don't move." Footsteps echoed from the side room, heavier, more deliberate. The leader appeared, tall and menacing, scarf over his face, scorpion emblem glinting on his vest. "You think a girl can hide my target?" he sneered, rifle raised. Zara rose, wrench in hand, jaw tight. "I'm not hiding. I'm stopping you." The man lunged. Zara dodged, swung, and narrowly missed. He grabbed her arm, twisting it, but Zara didn't yield. She kicked a toolbox at his knees. It hit, staggering him backward. Sparks from the fuel drum flared as the man cursed, firing blindly. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed outside. The safehouse doors burst open. Soldiers poured in, guns blazing. Bullets cracked, echoing against metal walls. Zara felt someone grab her from behind. She spun. A commando's hand pulled her out of the way as gunfire tore through the doorway. The terrorist leader tried to flee, but a spotlight from a helicopter pinned him down. Through the smoke, Zara saw a figure stride forward, Ibrahim Traoré, rifle in hand, aura commanding. "Step back," he shouted. "Touch my daughter, and you'll regret it." The terrorist froze, then fell as the soldiers moved in, capturing him. Traore sprinted to Aisha, enveloping her in his arms. She pointed at Zara, voice trembling, "Papa, she saved me." Zara sank to the floor, exhausted, covered in dust and sweat. Traore knelt beside her, inspecting the wrench and the bruises on her arms. "Who are you?" he asked, awe in his voice. Zara could barely speak. "Just trying to help." Traore smiled, a rare warmth softening his stern features. "Bravery like yours deserves more than thanks. You've done what few could even imagine." The sirens faded into the night as Zara closed her eyes, finally letting the tension drain away. Around her, the city was quieting, but the memory of fire, smoke, and fear would linger forever, and so would the bond she'd formed with the girl she saved.